Live. CASAA live. Look at that. So I think I figured it out, Alex. I was still on Wi-Fi. So I turned my Wi-Fi off. My computer's hardwired. I don't know why I was on Wi-Fi. This last like iOS whatever Mac update thing just did wonky things with my computer, but hopefully we're not. I still have an unstable connection thing up at the top of my screen. So hello, welcome everybody to CASAA Live. I may be like only partially live. We don't know.
You're just a little glitchy. It's not.
I'm just a little glitchy today.
Yeah, it's not like you're dropping off or anything like that. It's just a little glitchy.
Well, it's been a long week. I expect to be a little glitchy today. That's okay. We all have our glitchy days, I suppose. But anyways, welcome everyone. We were not live last week. A few of us had family things and stuff going on, so we weren't live. But we're here this week. Alex and I are. Kristen, I believe, still has some family things or something going on this weekend, so Kristen will not be joining us. But thank you all out there in chat for joining us today. Alex, hey, how are you?
Hey, doing all right. I've had a couple of minor accomplishments on a Saturday.
Ooh.
At least one life goal. I managed to take a picture of our dog going to the bathroom and send it to my wife. And,
nice.
And then I made some DIY soap scum remover.
Ooh.
Not sure how that's turned out yet. We'll see after the broadcast. But the poop photo was definitely
like a waiting process.
Yeah, you mix it, you spray it, you wait 15 minutes, and then you scrub it. And now I'm waiting and then you rinse it, and then I wait for things to dry to see whether or not I did anything.
Oh,
so.
Very cool. I found a little, I don't know, DIY way to remove blue oil-based enamel from your skin today. Yeah, I don't know, acne wash, like acne shower wash. Works pretty well. For anybody out there, if you happen to have your hands covered in oil-based blue enamel and you can't get it off with anything else because it's oil-based enamel, and then you happen to have acne wash in your shower, it does okay. It works pretty good. My hands were completely blue earlier. I still have a little, but
you got some blue knuckles there.
I do. I have it's like in the cracks of my skin where I can't, like the deep cracks of my skin is where I can't get the blue out. But otherwise, I don't know. It worked pretty well. It's okay. Slideshow, Logan. Am I really that free? Am I like freeze framing? Is it that bad?
I don't know.
Wonky cracks. I'm trying here, you guys. I'm trying. I'm sorry. Okay. I upgraded my internet, but I haven't upgraded my computer. We're getting there. Anyways. Yeah. I mean, that was my week. It was just long and kind of chilly and wet and gross. That's what it's been here in Western New York. It's just like gray, wet, gross.
Well, we had some really nice fall days here. It's cold. I'm up here in the North Country.
Yeah.
But today is particularly gray and gloomy, which is fine. You know, Halloween weekend. It's not supposed to be bright, sunny, and whatever.
When I was a kid, man, it was always like at least a foot of snow right now. Like growing, like being but a wee lad, I could only wear like my mask for my there was no point in getting an entire costume for Halloween when I was a kid because it was just like blue snowsuit, whatever mask you wanted to wear, and that was Halloween, you know. Like I can't tell you how many times I went as red Power Ranger with blue snowsuit, at least 3 times as a kid. But
nice.
Yeah. Anyways, I guess we can get right into it because we do have some legislation to discuss. Yes. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Ready to
We
do
can
the
hit
thing?
that.
All right, let's do the thing. All right, Alex. Legislative rundown. What do we need to know right now? What is happening? What do we need to keep our eyes and ears on?
So a lot of updates, a couple of new / pending things. First, I will navigate to what we have going on nationally, and that is the excessive federal tax on safer nicotine and tobacco products. This is we've heard on I think from multiple sources that this is out of the Build Back Better. That's 3 B's stuff, whatever it is, the infrastructure bill, social something, all of the things. So it's out of that, but might be put back in. So there's still some uncertainty as to the final language in all of this. And so still encouraging people, if you have not taken action already, even if you have, perhaps send another email to
you can do this call to action as many times as you want.
Yeah, I don't recommend like incessantly sending the same email over and over again, but certainly telling different parts of your story, maybe getting your friends and family involved. The more people, the better. The more variety in people's stories about how vaping has helped them is also very good and very helpful. And so there is still a need to get communication to your lawmakers and urge them to keep this out. We saw another kind of push by the usual suspects to rally their troops and pressure Congress to put this in. So any extra effort here helps. And we've driven a lot of communications to Congress over this, but we can always use more. The work is by no means finished. So that the vape tax is still kind of back on the table. And again, this is just one of those things. Like nobody cares what anybody says until the bill is written and we've had a chance to read it and see that the tax is out. Right. I don't exactly remember kind of the timeline here, but because there was, I think, a vote that failed in the House recently, everything is still kind of open to being amended or changed or whatever. So we're not done with the federal tax just yet. So the next thing here is going to be Denver, Colorado, I believe. I updated this recently. Let's see. Let me try to remember what I did. So yeah,
Denver, Colorado.
This may need another update. There was a hearing this week, and we'll see. I've heard decent things out of Denver, but I owe everyone an update there, so I'll get that fixed. But we had that happen this week, so it may still be necessary if you live in Denver, Colorado, to reach out. Look for an update early next week. Washington County, Oregon. Oh wait, I didn't even do the whole fancy screen share thing. There we go.
Yeah, you got to show the clicky map, Alex.
Yeah. Well, you get it for Washington County, Oregon, because that has been updated. And
so for podcast listeners, should I narrate the clicky map as Alex scrolls to the upper left-hand corner of the
map? So there is a public hearing on the amended ordinance in Washington County, and this hearing is on November 2nd. If some of you may remember, this originally started as requiring vapor products only be sold in adult-only establishments, and that quickly morphed as it was suspected into just an all-out flavor ban. And so that's why they have, I believe this would be a second or third hearing for this because of the change. And that hearing is on Tuesday, November 2nd. So that's this coming Tuesday. If you live in Washington County, Oregon, we've set this up so that you are communicating with your county commissioner. Also, there is an at-large commissioner, which receives messages from everyone. So please send your emails to your county commissioner and urge them to reject this ordinance. Washington County, Oregon, November 2nd. Get on it. And thank you for those who have participated. The next order of business here, I don't have any more calls to action up at the moment for these things, but we are looking at a potential flavor ban in Portland, Maine. One of the things that was included in our blog post this week, oops, that's the wrong. Now I'm narrating me clicking through the website because you can't see it on here anyway. One of the things that we included in our blog post this week was a flavor ban that was passed in Bangor, Maine. This is something that kind of slipped through the cracks. I think that they're even, the national organizations, lobbyists, this snuck up on people. So we didn't catch this either. And this was passed. And this takes effect on June 1st, 2022. I haven't read the ordinance, but with people like the American Cancer Society tweeting about it, I'm sure that this just sort of indiscriminately bans flavors with no regard to the substantive scientific review that FDA is mandated to do. And we'll talk about that later. But
including menthol cigarettes as well.
Yeah, good job, Bangor, Maine, to ignore science and all the things. But Portland, Maine is going to be the next stop in Maine for this proposal, and looking to see whether or not a call to action will be helpful from our side. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But if you live in Portland, Maine, be on the lookout. Regardless of whether or not we put something out, this is happening, and it is likely to receive a public hearing on November 9th. So I'm looking to get something out early next week for Portland, Maine. If not, if you live in Portland, Maine, just know that this is happening. There's nothing on the agenda just yet. So we're following that to see when that is posted, and we'll get that information out as soon as possible. The other things I have on here are still Michigan, waiting to see what happens with legislation there. Haven't heard anything. It's the end of the legislative session for them. So the prevailing thoughts on this are that we won't see anything by the end of the year, but certainly 2022 is just right around the corner. It's October. It's Halloween already.
Yeah.
Which actually
I'm just really bummed that spooky season is almost over.
I live in this
time.
To me, I am at the same time remarking how all of a sudden it's Halloween, but at the same time it feels like it's been 5 years since the beginning of the year. So I don't know where I am on the timeline.
Just the past 2 years I've thrown my sense of time out the window. Like, this is Halloween 2019, right?
I'm still trying to figure out whether or not 2019 actually happened.
Yeah, and I was talking to somebody the other day about how as you get older, the years seem to go by quicker and quicker. When you're real little, a year is a lifetime. And as you get older, they go by faster and faster. But COVID and these past 2 years has just sped that process up. It's just, I was ready for them to go by quicker, but I wasn't ready for them to go by that fast. I'm still recovering from the end of 2019. I don't know if I'll ever recover. That's okay. Is that it for legislation?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm sure not a comprehensive list of everything out there, but we're doing what we can. Also, there's a few other things noted in the blog post. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, check out things going on in Fairfax, California. Florida is looking at a law banning, is it vaping or smoking outdoors? And let's see, we got Denver, Colorado. A good article there on filter. Banger we just talked about. I believe that would be it for the kind of local stuff that we're picking up on. Yeah, so you can double check with the blog post and see some other issues happening, perhaps in your neighborhood.
Awesome. And that is why Kristen puts so much work into those blogs. So that way everybody has all that information readily available. And then as well, we link to the blog in both all the video descriptions for this, except for Twitter. But on Facebook, on YouTube, the links are all there, and on SoundCloud and the respective plethora of places that the feed link goes to as well. I believe we're on Apple, Google, and a few other ones as well. And you should be able to find the blog post there. Or otherwise, you can just go to CASAA.org. Hello. Click blog. It's right there, you guys. It's all right there. All right. Oh, what do we got? Skip. Flavor ban in Mankato, Minnesota is on the radar. No details yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll keep an eye on that too. Thank you, Skip, as always, for the heads up.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Alex. Are you ready to do a take two?
Yeah.
Two. What I need to do, I'm going to hit up Danielle, or maybe I could probably just do this on my own, because Danielle does a wonderful job on all of the graphics and all of the media stuff for CASAA. Thank you, Danielle. But I need to get one that has like a line through it, and it's like a 2 written in, or like one with like a 4 for if we have a guest on, for like all the different. There we go. We'll do take 2s, take 4s. We could have a whole panel. We'd do like a take 12. Crazy with it.
Can we get 12 people on here?
I don't know. We can try. Welcome to CASAA Chaos Live.
Yeah, there you go.
12-person panel. It's just silliness. Alex, you wanna start this out? You want me to start this out?
I can go. We'll go alphabetically.
Go. Sure.
So
you beat me in both. First name and last name. You beat me alphabetically. What's your middle initial?
It's my first. Well, I go by Alex, so that's my middle. My Alexander is my middle name.
Oh, I'm not gonna ask you your first name then, I guess.
It's Steven.
Oh,
my initials are dumb. They spell sack.
Oh, no, that's still fun, right? I do beat you then, first name wise, because L does come before S.
There you go.
I just wanted to win at something today. Okay.
Okay.
That's you win. All right. You can take it away. It's your
totally win. I'll order up your trophy. So yeah, no,
that's all I need. Just a small gold medal. Something I can put on a nice gold chain. That's all I need. Okay. Sorry. Carry on.
Back to the issue at hand. So yeah, my take for the week is science, what I'm calling science by court order. And there isn't really any one article to talk about here. There isn't really one event to speak of. It's sort of the combination of everything from the AAP versus FDA, that's the American Academy of Pediatrics, or pediatricians, whatever they want to be called. They should just stop, probably. And all of these rescission orders that were the FDA rescissions of MDOs, marketing denial orders, that are coming through, and I guess we can expect more because of what FDA is doing here. And this is really kind of part of the deep dive, so I don't want to get too far into this, but I think, one of the things that I do have in my notes here is this article from Alex Norsha. Actually, do I have it? Yeah. So this is the second e-cigarette, e-liquid company that is receiving a rescission from FDA. And I will expose my ignorance here and saying I kind of looked for some sort of document about this rescission. which is, FDA going back on their MDO. But was that you? Oh yeah, that was you.
Was it me?
So the gurgling sound. I was like, is that a leak? Is something on fire? Yeah, this is the second rescission coming from FDA of a marketing denial order. The first being Turning Point Brands, which made a lot of waves because Turning Point Brands' response, or as part of their motion for a stay, was all about pointing out that FDA overlooked studies that were clinical trials, and they do have some longitudinal data in there apparently, and this is sort of indicative of FDA not doing a thorough review as they are mandated by the Tobacco Control Act, and just giving short shrift to applications and simply wholesale denying people or denying manufacturers. And so Fumizer is another company that is basically making the same allegation, and it is now backed up with FDA issuing this rescission of the marketing denial order, meaning that they can still market their products. And then we have another one with Triton, which makes a lot of kind of not really, like, I don't know if you could call them old school e-liquids, but I think like Suicide Bunny's in there. I think Telos, and hold on, I have to spoil my dog with a ridiculous treat right now, or else he's going to start.
Oh, is this the bacon wrapped bone?
Yeah. Did I put that on camera last
time? Or a few weeks ago? The pup got a bacon wrapped bone.
Yeah. So how spoiled is our dog? This is just
That's just the treat. That's a pre-dinner treat.
So I have to lead him into another room, otherwise the gnawing is going to be really annoying.
Oh yeah, we can't have. We could have me as a slideshow and freeze framing the whole time, but we can't have gnawing on a CASAA live.
Okay, thanks for filling the empty void there. I apologize.
Yeah, I just talked about gnawing.
He's happy.
I was considering giving some auditory examples for people of what gnawing may sound like, but I decided to go
thanks. So anyway, my take is really like, this is what you get. This is what you get for pressuring a regulator to ignore the science, pressuring a regulator to defy their mandate, and setting these arbitrary deadlines, which is exactly what the American Academy of Pediatrics was doing, was demanding that FDA enforce the original 2018 PMTA deadline, and it's just an arbitrary line in the sand. There's no evidence to support giving the industry only 2 years to come up with massive applications that require studies that take multiple years to complete. I think I've said this before, talking to a manufacturer shortly after the deeming rule was finalized, they knew that some of these studies would take 3 years to complete, and yet the deadline is only 2 years away. Not only was the deadline,
the original deadline was 2018,
right,
and then Gottlieb pushed that all the way up to 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So we right now we would still be looking at being a year away from these PMTAs being due, and then backpedaled that a year to 2021, and then we saw this court decision, right, that bumped us into April of 2020.
I don't remember FDA. Did they move it back to 21? I thought it was.
Yeah, there was a weird, like, right before Gottlieb left, for no real apparent reason, we went from 2022 to them being due in 2021. He moved the timeline up a year.
And then
the court case moved us to April of 2020. And then due to COVID, due to all those things, we were granted, or the industry, I guess, not necessarily we, but the industry was granted until September.
Yeah, something like that.
I need Jim. But I think that's how the timeline goes. Jim knows this timeline like the back of his hand, but I believe that's
that's the
and
gist
that's one of the biggest things is like, all these companies were like, okay, well, we know we need to do this, but when is it due? FDA keeps, shifting things around.
Yeah, I mean, the theme throughout this is the ever-changing deadlines, the goalposts that were moved as far as what was required. None of this, by the way, is based on science or data. There's nothing informing FDA saying that, this is the amount of time it's going to take. And I think, the original moving the deadline to 2022 is FDA kind of weighing what they're capable of doing. And part of what FDA is capable of doing is gradually figuring out what this PMTA process is going to look like and being able to offer manufacturers useful guidance in how to put together a robust application that it's in FDA's own interest to be as open about this as possible so that they're not wasting their time reviewing applications that aren't going to go anywhere. So, sort of front load all of this with useful information so manufacturers can submit robust applications. And the other thing that was going on was FDA having these compliance deadlines, which some of it involved testing, some of it involved meeting, marketing restrictions, all of these things that manufacturers were doing in hopes of eventually getting to a point where, now you've complied with all of these things, which also those deadlines, I think, sort of thinned the herd. There were plenty of people and plenty of manufacturers out there who were not serious about this. There absolutely were manufacturers who were just kind of fly by night. They're in it for a couple of years and then they get out. They made their money and now they're done. But for all of the rest of the people who are in this for all of the right reasons, and some people were excluded from the process simply because they couldn't afford to go forward, which is something that everyone has been sort of warning about since before 2014. This I think was designed to bring the industry along into the regulatory process and set them up so that they would be able to submit applications that FDA would be able to seriously review. Now, that's my like Pollyanna take on everything. And I hope that was, eventually I hope that was the goal, that by 2022, everybody would be in a position to submit robust applications and we would have more than, the Views Solo on the market, which we still have more than the Views Solo on the market. And we will continue to have more than the Views Solo on the market. Just, the legal aspect.
Depends on the market that you're shopping in.
Exactly. But essentially what happened was these ostensibly data-informed organizations like Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, Truth Initiative, Cancer, Heart and Lung, and the American Academy of the People Who Take Care of Your Kids demanded an arbitrary deadline be enforced without science, without evidence, simply driven by ideology and fear. And so this is what you get when you do science by court order. The court has more influence over the process than the science-based regulatory agency who is now derelict in their duty. That's my take.
That's quite the take. And I think, I know we're obviously going to expand on a lot of that once we get into the deep dive as well. So yeah, it's what you get. Mic drop. Okay. I wish you would have done a mic drop. Just like, that's what you get.
I can't. I would ruin everything.
Yeah, please don't drop your mic. All right. So my take this week, we are going to hop skip across the pond. We are going to head over to England, our friends in the UK. This is from CNN World. England could prescribe e-cigarettes on National Health Service. So if you've been living under a rock, the UK, the NHS, they do have universal health care there. And this is kind of where this is what we're talking about. Yeah, sorry. My brain just like sizzled and died there for a second. But I'm back. All right. E-cigarettes could be prescribed in England's National Health Service under plans to cut smoking rates in the country. I'm not going to read through this whole article. This is the idea. Oh, my cat found a toy, you guys. I'm so sorry. Hang on.
No, that's okay. Your cat can be in the shot. That's how you win at the internet these days, right?
Oh, he's still going to play. I just shot him into the other room.
Oh, okay.
He found the wall as well.
Good kitty.
So the idea here is the UK opening up the gates to allow manufacturers to apply with the MHRA, which is the UK's Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. This is essentially the UK's FDA. So they would be applying through a process that is somewhat, I don't know, similar to a PMTA, but more, I guess, more similar to a drug.
Yeah,
I guess really
probably more
like their medical route. Yeah, whatever their medical pathway is, would be what this would be going through. My understanding is this doesn't change the consumer commercial side of e-cigarettes in the UK, that there would still be vape shops. This is not like a prescription only model. This is basically the UK being able to, if a company, a manufacturer gets through this process and their product is approved, then through the NHS, they would be able to actually prescribe that e-cigarette or those e-cigarettes, if there are more than one, to people through people going to see the doctor to quit smoking. This would be really beneficial for people who can't afford to go to a vape shop and go buy a vape kit and start out with something and go through that whole process. As we all know, that first initial startup cost to vaping can be a bit steeper than just continuing on to vape. So some people are deterred by that. They can't afford that. They can't kind of get through that opening gate to get an e-cigarette to get going. This would be able to put those products into people's hands right through their physicians. So I think this is a really good thing. I do want to expand a little bit in this article here, though. Robert West, professor of health psychology at the Department of Behavioral Science and Health at University College London, said the regulatory hurdles to be overcome for a product to be licensed are huge, and he was not confident that e-cigarette manufacturers, independent of the tobacco industry, will have the resources to overcome them. Quote, smokers can already get e-cigarettes from some stop smoking services, and this move could expand access to e-cigarettes. This could very easily lead, to a situation where tobacco company e-cigarettes with limited effectiveness can be prescribed, while much better ones cannot. In my view, no healthcare provider should prescribe an e-cigarette produced by a tobacco company. So I disagree in that, and because there's kind of some contradiction here, right? Like there's the acknowledgement that there are regulatory hurdles to be overcome, and that most of the independent industry will not be able to afford that or be able to overcome that process, while at the same time, in his view, no healthcare provider should provide or prescribe an e-cigarette produced by a tobacco company. And I think this is kind of where a lot of these folks, in tobacco control, have been doing this for a really, really long time, still get stuck in that war on incumbent tobacco companies kind of taking precedence over people. So if the independent industry cannot afford to overcome these hurdles, but yet we don't want an e-cigarette produced by companies that can afford to overcome these hurdles, what's left? The same products that are already there, and having no e-cigarettes available through this model. In my view, I would love to see the independent industry, make waves getting through this process. So that way people who smoke in the UK, who go to their doctor, who maybe are less inclined to go to a vape shop, maybe they're not secure about that. They want something from a doctor, from their physician. Those people would have access to a myriad of products that they can choose from that are going to work for them. I would love to see the independent industry get through that. But if the independent industry cannot, and the only folks who can get through that are tobacco companies, just because they come from an incumbent tobacco company doesn't make their product less safe or less effective or whatever it may be And if they can get through, don't people still deserve that option regardless of it coming from a tobacco company? I guess that's my question here is like, is this just kind of like one of those like war on tobacco companies kind of things? You know, like we don't want them to be the ones to get through, but yet we're not confident that anyone else will. So I don't know. I get a little lost here with Professor Robert West as to what he's getting at, you know?
Yeah, I can't speak to Professor West's motivations here, but it sounds like from some of the comments we have some UK friends in the chat that Professor West is. Let me see if I can grab it here. I got to scroll up. We're scrolling. I swear I saw it. Okay, here we go. This is from Pippa's Live. He's pro-vaping but super anti-big tobacco companies, which is counterproductive in my opinion. I think, we tend to agree with that. And in fact, as some people have commented, actually some of the best and most reliable science about tobacco products is coming from tobacco companies. It's not coming from, people who we're supposed to be able to trust with this, people in public health and science. There is clearly a bias against tobacco companies, and I agree that it's not the productive way forward. And yeah, this whole issue of resources. Tobacco companies are the ones who have the resources to get through these onerous application process. I don't know what the process is like in the UK. I know that we've already seen at least it was the Vogue. I think it's not an e-cigarette, but it's a nicotine product. Or actually, I don't know if it contained nicotine.
Is that the fancy straw that comes in the cigarette pack?
It's something like that. I don't know. So anyway, it actually seems more likely that a company will be able to get through the MHRA's process. I think it doesn't matter at this point if it's coming from an incumbent tobacco company or an independent vapor retailer. It's more likely that tobacco companies will be able to navigate the process. And, honestly, I feel like sort of an alternate view on this as to like what role tobacco companies should play is that they absolutely should participate in fixing the problem that they help to create. And so if that means, even if that, look, this is all business. I don't care whether you're coming at it from the perspective of protect public health or not. Look, if you take a look at what some of these people make, it's money. They're making money. That's how this works. It's how everything works. If you do a job and you're compensated for your time, your skill is recognized by an employer, you're making money. And, you don't take a vow of poverty when you join the public health establishment. You don't take a vow of poverty when you work for a nonprofit. You get paid. So everybody's making money off of this. If you have a moral dilemma about the people who are responsible for misleading the public about the harms of smoking making money off of this, fine, I get that. But I think in order to serve the public good, people are going to have to confront those hangups and perhaps look at a different way forward. And I suggest that it is that tobacco companies absolutely, they have a responsibility to fix this problem. It's sort of, it's a consequence that they're going to make. It just as a consequence of doing business, you kind of have to make money. If there was no money to be made in this, then nobody would be making these products. That's kind of how it works. Nobody's making, first of all, nobody's out there finding the cure for cancer thinking that they're going to give it away for free. That's not how it works. And people aren't funding the cure because there's no money in it. But yeah, that I had another thought in there and I kind of lost it getting all ranty about this. Anyway.
I think, like you and I have talked in the past, and I can't remember if this was a discussion we had like a real long time ago prior to Kristen being here or not. She very well may have been there for that one, but we had discussed a prescription vape model here in this country. And one of the key points that you and I both made was that's great. It just can't be the only thing. Because again, there are a lot of people who I think would really prefer to get a product like this, or any kind of smoking cessation product, whatever that may be. They want to hear their doctor say, yes, use this thing, or have their doctor prescribe it to them. There's a level of security that people are going to take in that, and they're more likely to use the product than just kind of walking into a vape shop and Joe behind the counter says, yeah, use this. They feel much better about it coming from a doctor, from their physician. So I think, at least in the UK, I mean, I would love to see this here as well. Obviously, like, we would love to see a product approved through this kind of pathway for those who are uneasy about these products or are unsure, who need that assurance from their physician. I think those are the people who are definitely going to benefit the most. And again, people who can't afford these products through going to a vape shop or ordering online or whatever means they have. If they can afford these products, this would put that in their hands. It just can't be the only model, right? It can't be. We can't have these aren't medicines. These are consumer nicotine products. These are alternatives. They can't just be a medicine, because then we stifle the entire thing that makes all of this work so well.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting to make the comment about a potentially ineffective product manufactured by a tobacco company.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
At least I can't speak to people's experience in the UK, but here in the United States, the products that are manufactured by pharmaceutical companies are, by comparison, ineffective. I used nicotine gum for 3 years, and the only nicotine concentrations I could find were 2 and 4 milligram. Now, arguably, the 4 milligram is enough. When I first started vaping, I still had to use the nicotine gum, because the first generation cig-alike products that I was using, which, by the way, is pretty much
like
what the FDA just authorized for market, were not effective. It just wasn't enough for me. It was still a proof of concept, and I still needed some backup. I would be more concerned about what you just described as what we are opposed to, which is just a medicine only kind of product that comes in probably some, not that appealing mint flavor or no flavor at all. And probably has some
fruit chill.
Okay. I would imagine, if it's going to be a medicines product, you'd be on the lookout for things like, only being able to operate it by, using like some sort of biometric lock in order to use it, a puff count. Like, you can only have so many puffs a day. Like, that's a completely wrong approach, but those are things that I would expect from, for example, a pharmaceutical company going through the pathway. They want these tightly controlled, metered doses of nicotine.
Something similar to what is that? What is that one? Hail?
Yeah, I don't know any. That is a product. I don't know where it is in terms of.
It's supposed to step down your nicotine while you use it for you. So, like, when you get it, like, as you use it, the dosage goes down. It's supposed to wean you off for you. The Hail knows what you need better than you do. And so that's the concept behind that. And that would be something like you're talking about, that's very like dose regulated, medicalized. You need to stop. You should be done with nicotine by the time you're done with this product, kind of thing, weans you off for you, as opposed to, the consumer market that we have, at least in this, or had in this country, where you could walk into a vape shop and you could say, okay, well, yeah, I'd like to start with something a little higher and wean my way down, find what works for me to start, what my goals are, set my own timelines, my own goals moving forward. Having that control, which is one of the things that makes this product work so well, is putting that control into the hands of the user and saying, this isn't something you need to, set an end date and set these, arbitrary goals for when you have to quit. No, when you're ready, you do whatever your next plan is, what works for you. So, yeah, anyways, that my take on that is I would definitely think that this is a good thing, having something through prescription, through the physicians, through NHS to get to people who either can't afford it or who are still too weary to walk into a vape shop and try these products. They need that reassurance from their care provider. Those are excellent things, as long as that's not the only model.
Yeah.
And I see no issue in tobacco companies participating in this. I think the more products available to people through this, the better. The more tools in the toolbox, the better.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of want to underscore, because I had a conversation with somebody who's actually kind of researching how do we reach people with mood and mental disorders. And these are typically people from, lower income status. And so making a product that is free or otherwise very low cost through the National Health Service, I think is excellent. And it is part of sort of solving this problem of how do we make these products more affordable and accessible to people who need them the most, which, as far as, the data show, that is people from, low income status.
Yes. Philip says, I sound like Mike, and it's scaring the hell out of his children. I don't know who Mike is, but I apologize to your children, Philip. All right. That's the end of my take. Alex, I think it's time that we dive deep. We're diving deep. We're getting scuba gear on for this. We've got our tanks ready to go to the depths of this ocean. Not really. We're not going to go swimming today. It's mighty cold here in New York, but we are going to get into some things here. Alex kind of put his toes in the water, so to speak, here with his take. So let's trudge forth, sir.
So I figured we'd start with this, which is the sort of, I think this is the latest motion. Well, this is a motion for a stay. And I can't put any legal expertise to this because I don't have them. But there are some really interesting nuggets in the court's opinion here.
Nuggets.
I think I wanted to highlight. I don't know if nuggets does it justice.
No, that's a beautiful word.
These are. I think these might be boulders. And so this is definitely.
I'm picturing like little hidden chicken nuggets throughout the document. Like you get to page 4 and there's a nugget just sitting there.
I was thinking more of like little gold nuggets, but
that's way better
than chicken does it nuggets. For you.
I'll definitely, I would definitely take gold nuggets over chicken nuggets. But
yeah. So anyway, so Triton that has, I guess I don't know how many PMTA applications they submit or for how many products they submitted, but there are some recognizable liquids, I believe, manufactured by this company. I think Boilermaker was one of them, Suicide Bunny, Telios, and some others. I'm just throwing names out there. These are not endorsements by any stretch of the imagination, but some of the old school vapors might remember some of these names. I don't know. It's been so long since I've been to a vaping convention. I just don't know what's out there anymore.
I've never been to a vape convention, so you still, even with all that time, have more credentials here to speak to it.
So yeah, these are really interesting opinions here from the court, and it pretty much lays out what the FDA did. And I will say, I think this opinion sort of answered a question that I had. When we first started hearing about these wholesale denials from manufacturers, my initial instinct was, okay, like, I don't know how much truth there is to the claim that FDA is moving the goalposts. I'm sort of curious about what FDA's response is going to be to all of this, because, as far back as 2014, and probably even earlier for some people, we knew that FDA regulation was going to be potentially this insurmountable hurdle because of the research that they would require, and a lot of this whole like proving a negative thing. You have to prove that your product doesn't do something, which I think is impossible. And Swedish Match got tripped up in this when they had to prove that it doesn't cause cancer. There are tons of things on the market that are totally acceptable by consumers and regulators, and there are still a risk of cancer involved.
I went to buy a new pair of work gloves recently that had like a prop warning.
Yeah, prop
like
is it the prop 65? Yeah,
like like my work gloves can give me cancer. Okay.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. We live in a world where everything will kill you, so nothing will kill you. Anyway, my initial thought was that FDA had probably already responded to this claim of goalpost moving by maybe referencing the deeming rule or something like that. I don't believe that they actually did that, though. That was kind of what I was expecting, but that's not what happened, because they did, in fact, move the goalposts, which I believe this opinion describes as the switcheroo doctrine, which is from case law. And so, or previous case, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how to talk about these things.
The only word that anybody needed to know out of that statement was switcheroo.
Switcheroo.
It's just
switcheroo doctrine. But the one thing that keeps jumping out at me about Triton's application, Triton's case here, is the marketing plan that they put forward in their application. Now, I haven't seen their application. Probably nobody outside of Triton or an FDA is likely to get a look at this thing. It's all a lot of trade secret type stuff. Whatever, you have to protect your brand and all your formulas and stuff like that. Anyway, but the marketing plan, as I understand it from Triton, the way that they presented it in their application, and had FDA paid attention to this, is that they are only doing business with retailers that have a adult only access type of policy. So you got to be 21 and up to go into a vape shop. Triton will sell their liquids to you, and that is, I think that. These are things that, like we saw in Washington County, Oregon. Originally, that ordinance started out as, it's okay to sell flavored products as long as it's adult-only establishments. The same, I think, is true somewhat in New York City, where flavored tobacco products could be sold for like on-site consumption in adult-only establishments. I don't know if that's still the case, but at one point that was how it was. And so right there, you've sort of nipped this whole discussion about youth access in the bud. They aren't even allowed in the retail establishment. So how are they getting these products? I mean, you can go down the line and say, well, adults are buying them for them and the flavors are so attractive and this and that. Okay, fine, whatever.
Sure,
that's not going to change.
It's such a weak argument. I mean, that argument can be made about any product that's on the market right now, regardless. And I don't want to go down the whataboutism road and talk about who regulates what, but yeah, I mean, what the only people that you can, like, I don't know where I'm going with this thought, but if the only people that can buy it are adults, what the adult does with it from there and who they may sell it to, that would already be illegal for them to do. And that's kind of outside of like the whole authority here, right? Like, we're talking about establishments and distributors and things. Like, you can't regulate what the adult who bought it does from there.
Well, you can, but that's sort of the domain of whatever jurisdiction the shop is in.
That's not FDA.
That's your city council, it's your state legislators, it's your county, whatever. And there are laws about that at the state and local levels. If you purchase a tobacco product or alcohol, or in some places cannabis, and then sell it to a minor, there are penalties for that. You're not allowed to do that. And so, that's not FDA's responsibility.
That's what I'm saying. Is that's outside of FDA's, purview. That's not their problem and shouldn't be. That should be local law enforcement and whatnot.
Yep. And you know, and people can have conversations about whether or not those types of laws are actually appropriate, or if that's more just sort of putting people in a bad situation. You know, whatever. We as a society have accepted that we need age restrictions on certain products, and you know, for the most part, that's fine. You know, we can continue to have this conversation about whether 21 is the appropriate age, or if 18 or 16 or whatever. You know, we can continue having those conversations. Hopefully, they are data driven, not by emotion and fear. But for the purposes of this discussion, I think one of the things that was really interesting, and I dropped this in CASAA's kind of main chat, was this statement. The FDA claimed that its purported expertise and experience showed that no marketing plan would be sufficient, so it stopped looking at marketing plans. It's just one of those things, like, you know, it's I don't know. I'm just going to try to make something up here, but it's sort of like, didn't you see the truck coming at you from down the street? Like, you didn't get out of the street in time, and you got run over by the truck, not a motorcycle, not somebody on a scooter. You got run over by a massive truck that people can see coming from a mile away. It's just one of those things. It's so blatantly obvious, and it's surprising to me that I feel like one of the few people in the world seeing this, which means I'm probably wrong. I think if you're just doing, like, you know, probabilities and all of that, like, maybe I'm wrong about this. But this whole response from FDA to me seems to negate anybody's support of any tobacco control policy, because there is no marketing plan that's acceptable. And it's here. Similarly, we are not aware of access restrictions that to date have been successful in sufficiently decreasing the ability of youth to obtain and use ends.
So then why did we do tobacco 21 to begin with?
Why are we championing? Why are people demanding extra taxes? Why are people demanding an infinite increase in federal tax on vapor products?
Why are we even discussing these products only being in adult-only establishments?
Yeah,
if that's not an effective access restriction.
Why do we have place bans?
Why do we have tobacco control?
Well, yeah, what's the point? Why did we go through the whole Make a Tobacco Control Act? It was all about access. At every point, it is about restricting access. So if none of that works, then why do we have a Center for Tobacco Products? I mean, ultimately, is this FDA saying, hey, guys, look, as far as we can tell, we're not necessary?
Yeah. Why are we here? Yeah, I mean, they're requiring marketing plans and then turning around and saying, but by the way, none of them are sufficient.
Yeah. So,
and all of these restrictions that, you know, we've been dealing with, none of them matter. What a statement.
Yeah. And this is FDA's response. Yeah. I mean, so anyway, I mean, this leads me to believe that perhaps I'm just reading all of this wrong, and it doesn't mean what I think it means, and I just need more expertise in order to understand all this stuff. But you know, right now, this reads a lot like, well, this is tobacco control working themselves out of a job for sure. If nothing you do matters, then what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
just remember that statement every time that you know, an anti-tobacco nicotine organization comes out and talks about how effective tobacco 21 is, or how effective place bans are, or how effective this, that, and the other thing. Well, FDA says none of that, none of that matters.
Yeah, those are all about access.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this goes on to get in here, and here we go. Here's our new favorite phrase, surprise switcheroo. Talking about reliance. I think this is something that we broached with Allison, with Allie Vapes, when we had her on as a guest, that, essentially, FDA, by issuing this guidance, final or draft or whatever, it doesn't matter. It creates a situation where the manufacturers become reliant on FDA for the guidance. They are relying on FDA for, the helpful tips and tricks about producing a robust PMTA application. And when the agency, when the regulator at some point just turns their guidance on its ear, well, yeah, of course, everybody is surprised that they're not honoring what all the guidance that they've provided before. They are relying on the agency to give them a clear picture of what's needed, and now they're changing their tune midstream. I can throw all the allegory and metaphor in there that you need. So yeah, that was something that we talked about earlier, that the companies are looking to FDA for substantive guidance, and while they thought they were getting it, they thought they were getting a clear picture from FDA.
Lord, the industry was promised a streamlined pathway at one point.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that wasn't through FDA, but that's when final guidance for these applications comes out after the due date for the applications themselves, it's kind of problematic. It's like, hey, don't worry, we're going to give you these guidelines so that way you can submit your application as robustly as possible. I love that we're using the word robust so much today. So that way we don't waste our time going through these applications, and that way you don't have to, resubmit, that we're all on the same page here with what we want. We're going to give you a final guidance, but hey, we'll tell you a month after you have to submit it, or however many days and however much time it was something like a month. Yeah, that's problematic. That's kind of changing the rules or whatever, after the game is over. That's like saying, oh no, I won because you didn't do this thing. Well, that wasn't in the rules before. Yeah, I just added it. It's in the rules now, Yeah,
I think I have the word entrapment in mind. I
don't think entrapment's quite the right word, but I know what you're saying. It's like ensnaring, I guess, in a way, to have all these applications come in, and then after the fact, once they're submitted, once people have spent all this time and money in going through this process, now you say, oh, hey, also, by the way, you need these other things or whatever that we told you weren't going to need before. Now you need them. It's just like a de facto way of shutting everybody down. It's changing the rules after the game ends.
So I think, part of this, I'm
really sorry about Frank, everybody. He's wild with that toy right now.
Oh, I don't hear anything.
Okay, good, because there's like a war going on in the other room between him and this little ball.
But what I was going to get to here is, part of the opinion here gets into FDA they have to consider alternatives to issuing a marketing denial order. And I think, part of what I think a lot of people expected, first of all, I think a lot of the independent manufacturers expected that their applications would be sort of viewed as insufficient at the time.
Yeah, they would get deficiency letters
right, exactly. Deficiency letters. And that to me sounds like that's the alternative that FDA is supposed to have. It's not a denial order. It keeps you in the process, and you can come back and amend your application with the information that FDA is looking for. This has happened. It happened with Swedish Match. It happened with Altria. It's happening with Reynolds. And you can see this process playing out on FDA's website as they send deficiency letters. The manufacturer responds with answers and additional information that the FDA is requesting. And so that was FDA's alternative. So hold on just a second. They didn't do that. And this, quoting the decision here, reinforces that the order was likely arbitrary, capricious, or otherwise unlawful. Now,
Mic drop.
So here's what FDA, I believe it is in here, and I want to find it because I don't, there's something I don't want to do. But FDA, I think, cites sort of this need for efficiency. I think it might be sort of before this. But, FDA is finding itself backed into a corner, right? They have this court order from 2019 that forced FDA to move the deadline up to April or May 2020. And so FDA is now in this position because of this court order to efficiently approve, authorize, or deny marketing orders for these companies. In order to meet this deadline, which I think we can call arbitrary, capricious, or otherwise unlawful, FDA had to ignore or violate its mandate to substantively and scientifically review people's applications.
Yeah. Prior to the show, I told Alex that I had a rather thick tinfoil hat on because I feel like, I don't know as though I really want to go down that road, but like it kind of feels like FDA knew this was going to happen, right? And the only way to get back to going through what they should be doing is to break the law because of this arbitrary date that they were given through that lawsuit.
And yeah, I think to some, putting my own tinfoil hat on.
Time. Yeah.
Tinfoil hat disclaimer. Yeah, I think I agree with that somewhat, and I think I believe there is a catalyst in here somewhere that led to FDA making this sort of wholesale decision about banning flavors specifically. And I don't know when that's going to be revealed, but I think there is a catalyst involved here. And it's something that we will all be able to point to and say, oh, that's where FDA decided to break the law. Right. And so, but we'll see whether or not something like that actually surfaces.
We knew, and FDA had said, and I don't know when in the timeline of all things, but they did say that, flavors there would be a higher standard. It would be a little bit harder to get flavors through, but ultimately not impossible that these products could very well make it through this process. And then all of a sudden we just start seeing blatant copy and paste denial orders for everything and anything that isn't a tobacco flavor. So you kind of go like, where along the lines did we go from, yes, it may be a little harder to get flavors other than tobacco through the process, but not impossible, to copy and paste MDOs for everyone? Yeah. Where along that timeline, what happened in there? I agree. I think there's something that took place at FDA that ultimately decided that we're just going to use this blanket template and just deny everyone.
But, back to sort of the tinfoil hat thing that we both somewhat agree on is, this is sort of predicated on the assumption that there are good people at FDA who are not happy with the court order to move up the deadline. And that, sometimes the only way to do the right thing is to break a law. And, bad laws are meant to be broken. That's a battle cry of people on all sides of the political spectrum. And so I think at some point there are people at FDA who probably they were forced into making this decision. But to the larger point, it is that this original court order for the what ended up being the September 9th deadline was itself, I don't know if you can say that order is unlawful, but it's certainly not consistent with the Tobacco Control Act. It's not
certainly
consistent
arbitrary
with FDA's mandate, and it is an arbitrary and capricious deadline. There's no evidence to suggest that FDA would be in a better position to authorize or deny product applications in 2020 versus 2022. Even the 2022 deadline was sort of a best guess. That was, I think I imagine, I think somebody can probably confirm it, that there was a lot of industry input, a lot of industry conversations with FDA solely for the purpose of kind of updating FDA on where everyone was at with applications and compliance. The message all along was the industry needs more time, not just because you're dealing with a bunch of people who've never been through a regulatory process like this, but because product specific science in particular takes time to do. And so, in an effort to not send a bunch of people back to smoking, and the FDA clearly agreed with this, it is not in the best interest of public health to take all of these products off the market. And FDA argued this point in that original lawsuit. So, not being a legal scholar or anything like that, I have questions about that original ruling in 2019. I looked at that and I thought, well, FDA fought for and retained their enforcement discretion on a case-by-case basis. If you're a science-based regulator, which FDA is supposed to be, then you can, on a case-by-case basis, allow all kinds of stuff to stay on the market, because taking it off the market is not a benefit to public health. And so it's not really tinfoil hat. It's the Pollyanna view that I tend to take a lot of the time, is that was sort of crossing my fingers and hoping that FDA would allow a lot of manufacturers to keep selling while they did do the scientific review, which could take years. There's no guarantee. There's nothing in that court order, as far as I can tell, that actually holds FDA to this September 9th deadline. And as we discussed earlier, we know that isn't so because there are no consequences for FDA missing that deadline.
Right. It's just arbitrary.
Yeah.
There's no other word for it. It's just do this by this date or else.
Or else what?
Or else what? Yeah, exactly. So FDA, obviously, I mean, we all know nothing happened on the 9th.
Yeah.
What? What consequences?
I don't even think we got an updated market MDO list.
We got nothing on the 9th. I mean, it was a dry day. There was nothing. And we all sat and waited and nothing. I was like, this is the most boring September 9th ever. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I still hold my tinfoil hat on. I try not to put the tinfoil hat on too often, right? Like there's a lot of times in this space where you can get real tinfoil hatty with a lot of things, and I try really hard not to. But it just feels like we talked about, sometimes you got to break the law, and that, I feel like it's kind of what FDA did here. Was they acknowledged that there was no way they were going to get through these by that arbitrary deadline. And so in order to kind of get around that, you gotta break the law a little bit.
Yeah.
Or a lot of it.
So here we are. And I feel like I'm just flunking a dead horse here, but we're not having a science or data-driven conversation about authorizing these products. The FDA is doing in a very, very, very limited way its scientific review of the larger incumbent companies, and so I think I don't know how to hold the agency accountable. I feel like,
lawsuits.
I guess. I don't know. I mean,
like, is there another way?
Is that actually working? The answer is no, it's not working. And as far as I can tell, just in my non-expert opinion, this decision on Triton should throw out the deadline. The reason we're in this mess is because of Judge Grimm's decision and because of FDA's interpretation of that decision. So it's in violation of the Tobacco Control Act. That court order that the American Academy of People Who Take Care of Your Children brought was arbitrary and capricious. It's not following the evidence. It's not holding FDA to any standard other than we want you to ban these things.
Yeah,
That's not science.
It's nothing but nothing but ideology and a crusade to have these products banned. That's it. Has nothing to do with science, has nothing to do with public health or what's appropriate for the protection of public health. It is nothing but a crusade against these products. That's it.
Yeah. And as we're seeing, and I know, a lot of the names that we see in the chat, I know that you guys have been around for years and you guys get this, but for anybody who's listening afterwards, we have been, it seems at times, shouting into the void, trying to alert people to the fact that when they don't get the response they want from FDA, they take it to lower levels of government. And so all of the flavor bans that we're seeing, all of the increase in taxes that we see, the place bans, all of the things that we see are Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, Truth Initiative, American Cancer Society, American Lung Association, American Heart Association, Michael Bloomberg, and all of the rest. It is their effort to circumvent the scientific review that FDA is mandated by Congress to do. It's not in the hands. Congress didn't take on tobacco regulations for themselves because they're not a scientific body. Your state legislature is not a scientific body. Your city council is the farthest thing from a scientific body. So why are they making scientific decisions about regulating these products?
Exactly. And we've talked about before, one of the, I guess, playbook moves from these organizations is to get down to smaller government, because that's where it's going. They're going to have the easiest time getting their whatever passed, whatever their flavor ban, place bans, whatever that may be, passed, and then create that patchwork within a state of different regulations, things going on, so they can go, look, it's all over the place. This is chaos. We created it. This is chaos. We now need a state law or something in place at the state level. And then that patchwork grows. And because when you can't get it all the way at the top, you got to go back down to the bottom and you build from there. And they know that. And that's the game plan. Counties, small cities, things like that, build it up to the state level, take it up to the top.
And I will say, there are people, we have, CASAA has promoted or sort of, we've put out calls to action in support of preemption bills. And this is, states preempting actions by local governments, specifically with regard to regulating vapor products, and I think in some cases other tobacco products and cigarettes. And I think at least one person, probably a couple more, have sort of written back to us saying, no, I don't support this. Local governments need to be able to decide the rules, that affect their citizens. And I will say, to some extent, I do agree. I think in a lot of instances, different geographic regions, different municipalities have different concerns, different issues, and they need the freedom to enact policies that address their citizens' concerns and their citizens' needs. And in another aspect of this is that, state and local governments, but more so local governments, are sort of incubators for policies that can be implemented on a larger scale. And so I don't want that to be taken away. But specific to tobacco and vapor products, we need uniformity. We need something across the country that is in the benefit. In the interest of consumers.
Go as far as saying drug law in general, really.
Look at cannabis.
We're not talking about infrastructure and roads and things like that are going to change geographically from region to region, and what those areas need to address for their citizens. That's different than when we start talking about public health on a large scale. Like those are two very different areas of concern.
But
And
I would say, depending on where you live, even some, public health policies and health regulations may need to be tailored to your region, depending on things like, climate.
pollution,
Do
certain
you
things
live in an overly industrialized area?
Yeah.
Are there other factors that are affecting, that particular region's health? I get that. There are definitely specific needs for people based on where you live.
But we're talking about products that are, things that are available to everyone. We're talking, like you said, specific to tobacco. Tobacco is available in every gas station across the country. There's no area where there's like a tobacco-free Minnesota or something, like it's something that's everywhere. So we should have more uniformity to address that.
And it's, these are, when we talk about the role that FDA is supposed to play, these are people who are dedicated to this. This is what they do. The Center for Tobacco Products isn't reviewing Mountain Dew. They're reviewing tobacco products. That's
tobacco
what they're
products
supposed to do. So they're making, they are the ones that are tasked with coming up with this scientific review of these products and making sure that marketing them is appropriate for the protection of public health. And that's at the federal level. That's what we want. We want dedicated experts looking at this issue, not your, hardware store operator who ran for office because the potholes weren't getting filled in his neighborhood.
And now he's on the city council.
Yeah, and now they're on the city council or the state legislature. That person doesn't come from a background of science and tobacco products and so on. They don't actually know what the larger discussion about substance use is.
Right. Like I don't need the manager of Home Depot to tell me whether or not these products would help me quit smoking.
Yeah.
Like that's that's not what I need. I need experts.
To be clear, I'm not saying that all state legislators are, running hardware stores, as their job. Some states that is how it is, and in most places, you do kind of want the small business owner making decisions at the state level.
You want they're
part of the community. They have their
absolutely.
finger on the pulse of what Main Street needs, and that's appropriate. But when it comes to these issues, they either need more time and better information in order to make these decisions, or we leave this up to the experts in the room, which, as far as the United States has, it's people who work at tobacco companies, and it's also the Center for Tobacco Products. The FDA is supposed to be a non-biased, non-political, science and data-driven organization making these decisions, not Matt Myers, not Michael Bloomberg, not Robin Koval.
Agreed.
But instead, because they were able to go through the court and force FDA to accept this deadline, it's not being done the way that the Tobacco Control Act requires it to be done. I'm going to end up repeating myself. I think we're going to start going in circles here.
That's okay. We're not going to, I think this is a great spot to wrap it up because we could go on and on in those circles. But yeah, I mean, going forward now, we'll just have to see, where these other lawsuits go and where this goes from here. It's just like my favorite thing about tobacco harm reduction in this space is like, where do we go? What's going to happen next?
Nobody knows. This is the uncertainty that consumers and industry have been living with for more than a decade now.
More than a decade. Yeah. Just the most uncertainty ever.
I think, the decision for Triton, the result of Turning Point Brands. We also have Fumizer now. There's a handful of motions for a stay.
What was the one company you said from Triton? Something Bunny?
Suicide Bunny.
You told me at one point the makers of whatever Bunny is going to sue the FDA. I would have been like, what? But no, here we are. Here we sit today.
This is. I mean, I love making up band names kind of perspective. Like, I'm really excited to see all of the spectrum of vape industry names ending up in official documents. To me, there is some level of entertainment there, and I really appreciate it. And at some point, I think I don't know how this works into it, but one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is the names of different strains of cannabis. And why, because I only bring this up because somebody made some comment on Twitter a while ago. Kind of, it almost seemed like they were mocking all of the names of vape companies. And I will say I'm not mocking these names. I think it is what it is. But
Sure,
the fact that like unicorn poop is likely to end up in some sort of official legal document, I think is hilarious.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's the whole reason they named it unicorn poop. They know ahead of time.
Yeah.
They were like, this is going to end up in a legal document someday.
But yeah, one of the things that I don't know that people are talking about, but it struck me the other day that, in the cannabis side of things, there are strains of cannabis that are named after actual product, IP. So if you have a strain of, I don't know if a Skittles cannabis is out there, or some other candy bar or beverage or something like that. What does that mean when we look at federal regulation? Are those IP infringement, or is there some argument to be made that cannabis was illegal for so many years? What did it matter? What does it matter what you call these products if they're illegal?
Sure. I mean, yeah.
Are you going to go
that
after
strain of cannabis stole my candy name?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, and I think a lot of that carried over into the vapor space, that you had people coming from that world, and kind of, what does it matter? I name my product. It's I don't know. Anyway, that was just an interesting thing, an interesting aside, completely off topic. I just felt like getting it out there.
Sometimes you just got to get it out there.
Yeah.
But I think anyway, we are at the 6 o'clock the hour here on the best coast, 3 o'clock over on that other coast, the West Coast. So I think this is a good place to wrap it up. I know Alex and I both kind of had a 6 p.m. ish deadline today. So here we are. Alex, are you good with wrapping up this week? Is there anything else up in that cranium of yours that you need to put out into the world?
I'm sure it'll shake loose later, but we'll save it for next week.
Okay. You'll put it in the show notes?
I'll try.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, thank you. Thank you to everybody who tuned in today. Thank you to everybody in chat. Your comments and questions, much appreciated. The spiel. I didn't do it last week. I'm a little rusty. For everybody out there, podcast listeners, there will be 2 episodes available, 2 versions of this episode, not 2 episodes, a shorthand legislative rundown version just for all the need to know stuff for you. And then obviously the full version will be available as well. You can check that out on SoundCloud or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you have not yet joined CASAA, please do head over to CASAA.org. It is free. You can get the newsletters, stay up to date on all the calls to action, all that good stuff. And while you're there, if you had not submitted a testimony about your quit story or how these products have helped you, how smoke-free products have helped you, please submit that testimony, whether it's snus, e-cigarettes, gums, whatever that may be. Please submit that story. And right there, testimonials, submit them. Otherwise, that's going to do it for us this week. We will be back next week. To my knowledge, as far as I know, we will all be back next week. Same time, 4:30 p.m. over here on the Best Coast, 1:30 p.m. over there on the West Coast. That's going to do it for us, you guys. Thank you one last time. Be excellent to each other. Stay safe out there, everybody. We will see you next week. Bye.